Hello everyone, welcome back and thank you very much for watching. So this is another recap on the past few readings I've done on the taza. So specifically for President Joe Biden and President Putin, and again the way that you learn to read the tazas, well, one of the ways is you do your reading and then you wait, and if you are correct, then what you interpreted, and you have to remember, and then you know how to read that occurrence. And if you see it again, then it'll be easier for you and you know. So I will continue to do these short videos, and I will see you soon on a brand new reading. Take care. Thank you.
Policies. So here's Joe, and he's thinking of people that are, of someone that is not in the US. So he's thinking about, you see how this person's in the air? So he's thinking of, someone abroad, or a policy abroad, or an issue abroad. This is some sort of ship. It's like a ship. And I think that there's going to be a crisis. Maybe international. I think international. Okay, but I think it'll be settled. It'll be scary because there are weapons involved. Not like a little rocket. So there's the weapons involved, and papers and money and oceans, different countries. So we'll hear about that in the news. Probably, yeah. You know how it's like coming in. This is towards the east. It could be Europe or China. I remember the old Putin cups I did maybe 2-3 years ago. What I read on him is happening now. Okay, so that's one thing with him, and that's his main preoccupation right now with Joe. He's worried about that.
Now, the White House says the situation between Russia and Ukraine is extremely dangerous and that Russia could at any point launch an attack. Russia has deployed around 100,000 troops at the border, but denies that it's planning to invade. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale has the latest.
Russian forces training near the border with Ukraine. Just some of thousands deployed there since the autumn, raising fears in the West that Russia's planning an invasion. Fears that are dismissed by Moscow, but exacerbated by this: the arrival of Russian forces this week in Belarus, north of Ukraine, for what Moscow says are joint military exercises to repel external aggressors. But NATO's Secretary General said the risk of conflict was real.
The main task now is to prevent a military attack on Ukraine, and that's exactly why we send a very clear message to Russia that if they once again decide to use force against Ukraine, it will come with a high cost for Russia.
Britain is sending short-range anti-tank weapons to bolster Ukraine's defences, with, Downing Street said, about 100 British troops to help with the training. Russia's estimated to have about 100,000 troops on the border with Ukraine, most to the north and the east, with fears they could try to link up with Crimea that Russia annexed in 2014. But with Russian troops now in Belarus, there are fears they could also target the capital, Kiev, from the north. But what's the West prepared to do to deter Russia? Would it abandon this new gas pipeline from Russia to Germany that could leave energy prices soaring across Europe? Well, today, Germany's foreign minister was in Moscow and said her country was ready to pay a high economic price, and there could be consequences for the pipeline. Russia's foreign minister said that would be counterproductive and rejected what he called speculation about Russian aggression.
We are not threatening anyone, but hear threats directed at us. We cannot accept demands related to military operations on our own territory.
But the White House said the situation was extremely dangerous.
We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack on Ukraine. I would say that's more stark than we have been.
For now, the US is still looking for a diplomatic solution, with the country's Secretary of State holding talks with his Russian counterpart in Geneva later this week. Meanwhile, the Russian training continues. Today, Ukraine's defence minister told the BBC any conflict would be a disaster for Europe, with a lot of refugees and a lot of blood. James Landell, BBC News.
So here is Putin. And again, it's not that he's a child. It's not that he's, a little person. It's just that he's in the background like a puppeteer. He's a puppeteer. He sends other people to do his bidding. He doesn't really go himself. He first sends others. And so here you have, these are people from other countries that he's dealt with them. And he wants them to also create chaos. So he knows that he himself cannot pull whatever it is he's trying to pull now, domination, world domination. So he's incorporated people from other countries. Now this is a man from maybe an Indian or an African country, and these are Arabic people, and this is Asian. So you have India or Africa. Because I told you I burned the coffee, it's kind of hard for me to tell, but yeah, it's from probably an African country. Here is the headwear of the Arabic people, so maybe Mohammed bin Salman, that looks like him. And then this is someone with like dark straight hair, so I'm thinking this is someone from like China. So here he is, puppet mastering in the back. I'm not saying he's dominating them, but they kind of like what he's doing. Here he is sending people to meet, phone calls and sending people to meet with this other person, other European Caucasian person, who turns his back on these two people. So there's a disagreement. There's a disagreement between, I'm thinking, a European leader, a man, and Putin's two envoys here. And so you see these are like tanks and people in tanks or airplanes, crafts, I don't know. And these are 3 territories, 1, 2, 3. So he's not just going to start with one territory, Ukraine. It's others. He's going to intimidate 2 other territories in the European region.
The Security Council heard 2 very different arguments about the situation in Eastern Europe. The US, which called this meeting, says the Russian military build-up around Ukraine is the largest mobilization of troops in Europe in decades.
Russia's aggression today not only threatens Ukraine, it also threatens Europe. It threatens the international order this body is charged with upholding. We continue to hope Russia chooses the path of diplomacy over the path of conflict in Ukraine. But we cannot just wait and see.
But Russia's ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, says all his country's troops are on Russian soil. They're not close to the Ukrainian border, and there's absolutely no proof of a threat from them. He says the US and NATO were whipping up tensions as though they want there to be a war. Outside the council chamber, I pushed him further on this. Are there any circumstances in which Russian troops would cross the border into Ukraine? Can you just be clear for us?
I'm not the person to decide whatever happens, but we never, I said it in my statement, that no Russian politician or even a public figure ever said that we are planning to attack Ukraine.
A clear answer it seemed, but then he added this.
We do not exclude provocations from Ukrainian side, and the separatist republics, they say they have information that such provocations may happen.
Russia had tried to prevent this meeting by calling a procedural vote at the start. 9 countries supported the US, but Russia was joined by China in objecting to the session, and 3 other Security Council members, Gabon, Kenya and India, abstained.
The meeting went ahead, but the procedural vote and the comments of many of the non-Western members of the Council should be noted. The US's aim here was to galvanise international opinion against what it says is the Russian threat. But to achieve a broad international consensus, it still has more work to do. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.